Well, the federal government has reacted to the 7-day ultimatum issued by the Nigeria Labour Congress (NLC) to embark on a nationwide strike over the hike in the price of petrol, increase in public school fees, and the high cost of living in the country. Now, on Wednesday, the NLC issued a 7-day ultimatum to the federal government to reverse all what it calls anti-poor and insensitive policies in the communique signed by Joe Ajaero, NLC president, and Emmanuel Ugboaja, the union's general secretary. The union accused the federal government of showing enormous disdain and contempt for the Nigerian people and declared a war of attrition on Nigerians. However, in a statement, Joe Ajaero, the permanent secretary in the Ministry of Justice, said the union is restrained by the order of the National Industrial Court from embarking on any strike regarding the removal of petrol subsidy. Well, joining me virtually to discuss this matters arising, we have Olayinka Ola Daniels, a legal practitioner, and John Akirele. Good morning, gentlemen. All right, good morning to you. Well, I can see you, but I cannot hear you just yet. So I think probably your microphones were mute. So if you can, I'll appreciate if you can unmute your microphone. Good morning to you, Barrister Olayinka Ola Daniels.
Good morning in the studio. Good morning, viewers. Morning. Thank you for having me.
All right, good morning. Good to see you. It's been a while. I saw you. Being long, I saw you. Feel like singing that song. And also, good morning to John as well. John Akirele, also your social affairs commentator. Good morning to you, John.
Good morning, Moses, and good morning to all of our viewers all over the globe. Good morning to Nigeria.
All right, we always appreciate your presence here. So now let's start with how will the NLC respond to the... Now, I'm asking Barrister Olayinka now, how will the NLC respond to the court order to avoid further legal complications?
Well, I think before now, as at the last urgent date, NLC also came out to say that they need to follow the law or the rule of law. And if we must understand the way it works, once there's a ruling and or order of court, whether you want to question the jurisdiction of the court on that particular order, or you feel that due process had not been followed, or a backdoor was obtained a backdoor was taken to obtain an order from the court. All you can do, because we have to avoid anarchy and you cannot, two wrongs can make any right. So the best thing is appeal whatever the order of court is. If you are not comfortable with the order, or you feel that the court does not jurisdiction over that particular matter, it is for you to appeal the ruling or the judgment of the court on that. Now, saying that you want to proceed when there is a restraint order pending the decision of the substitution suit, then you may also be looking for trouble. You may because if you are an organization that fight for people's right, labor for employment and all that, and you know for sure that, okay, you need right, so that you don't leave a bad for other organizations or even the workers that you'll be fighting for. I think it is appropriate for NLC to shelve this plan and probably find a way of discuss further, because they've been discussing really on this matter. And I don't think violating the court order or ruling is appropriate on this. If they're comfortable, I think the appropriate thing is for them to appeal the judgment or to appeal the order or the ruling of the court, as against insisting on going on strike. There is an order restraining you from doing such. I think they know the right thing, and that's why that's the reason why the NLC president came out the other time to say whatever it is, they have to obey court order and they have to follow due process. So I do not think anything should change as we speak. I think they should wait, follow due process.
All right. John, how many cases will say not to go on strike that will come? Asking it not to go on strike, but then it disregards that.
Thank you for having me, but I think your network is a bit cracky. But if I can pick, said is talking about this case. I want to say thank you to Barrister Olayinka for giving an explicit view on that notion. But I would have expected, just like the Yorubas would say, that I would have expected that the federal government would also show leadership by example, you know. And if you look at it, just recently, that is when we talk about court rulings, in how many scenarios have the federal government been seen to also obey court orders? And as such, you cannot point accusing finger even to go ahead with their strike. But I'm not of the opinion that NLC should go ahead with their strike, but rather they should look at what the law has said and also uphold the stand of the law. They should follow the court's ruling. If there's an injunction that says that they should not go ahead with the planned strike, I think they can go the judgment, just like the barrister said. But looking at it, I think the government of the day must understand that there's been this lack of trust in NLC and the government in terms of previous cases. Mind you, this is not the first time they've been having negotiations and conclusions. But most of the time, you see that the federal government always keeps shifting the goalposts, not even, taking into cognizance their own part of the agreement with the Nigerian Labour Congress. And this is the premise of which they are saying they are. And I also understand that the federal government knows the implication of Nigerian Labour Congress going on strike, because that is just like shutting down the whole of the economy for about 2-3 days or even a week. I don't know how many days they've planned to go on strike. And now, if federal government understand the importance, the efficacy of the Nigerian Labour Congress, I think the onus is on the federal government to do the needful by making sure that the Nigerian Labour Congress have a very good working condition and environment. You cannot tell Nigerian Labour Congress and its workers, to keep sacrificing, whereas they see the political leaders in their own largesse, and they ask themselves a simple question: are you saying we are in the same country where we suffer for the country, and some show, one exorbitant and expensive, luxurious kind of way of life, and you say there's no money? So if there's no money for us to pay our own welfareism and pay us good salaries as workers of the federal government, but we see our political leaders show affluence, publicly to our face. So the question is, where are they getting the same fund for to sponsor their own kind of luxurious lifestyle, where you ask us as citizens and as workers to, sacrifice? But I think the Nigerian Labour Congress should show that even if the federal government is showing act of irresponsibility by not obeying court orders, they are, polite people in a polite environment, and that they are also leaders in their own vein. And they show leadership by example by obeying the court order, and also by looking for how they can appeal that judgment so that their fundamental rights. It's just like a protest, and that is the right of every citizen when you feel that the government is not doing what it ought to do. So that is just my own take on this issue.
Can you hear me now?
Yes, I can hear you.
Oh, great. Fantastic. Now, I want to come to Barrister Olayinka now with my next question. Barrister, you do know that this court order was sought what some would say, you know, from the back. Like the government called the NLC and the TUC for a meeting. Now, while they were still at it, government went to secure an ex parte order preventing the NLC from going on strike. Now, as you make to respond to that, also bear in mind that the talks, the negotiations on how to cushion the effect of the removal of subsidy, NLC, TUC, and the government decided to give themselves an 8-week, there's a period of 8 weeks to look at it, all right, from June 18, 8 weeks. Now, within that 8 weeks, a lot of other things have happened. Now, we've seen a situation whereby school fees have increased for unity schools and federal government institutions has gone up. Now, on this ground, NLC is saying, look, we need you to, these policies are anti-masses or anti-poor. We need you to reverse them. On that grounds, they are calling for the strike. Is it exactly the same thing? Is it exactly the same thing? Or is this, you know, a tilt from what it was initially that they were going to go on strike for? Two questions there.
Thank you. I think I said earlier that, one, that irrespective of how judgment is being obtained, whether through the back door, whether, I don't know what you mean by back door though, but whether through the back door, whether the right way, whether, but once there is a court order on a particular issue, should be obeyed. And because Mr. A or Mr. B are in the, you know, how do I put it now, are in the habit of disobeying the court order, does not also give rooms for others to say they want to disobey court order, because that one will lead to anarchy. And don't forget, the order is the order given is restraining NLC from proceeding on strike. That is the order. Not because, like you mentioned, other things happen within the time that NLC was supposed to negotiate and with the federal government. These are policies that will come from different quarters, different parastatals. The education, the other departments from the government are come up to say, oh, this because of what is happening today, because of where we are, because of the devaluation of Naira, because of the economic bastardization, whatever it is that, sorry for using that word, or that we do not even have anyone at all. Now, everybody will say, we cannot afford this. We cannot continue education on 19,000. Tuition fees cannot be on 19,000 with how much is with what we have today. For instance, a lot of people work, someone that earns 50,000 naira, that earns 100,000 naira, and probably whatever he's buying in the market before, he could manage 30,000. And now everything has gone by probably 300%. And he has not received any increment in his salary. Now, if he has got 300%, so how will he survive? Where will he get the money to augment what he needs to fix? The same thing applies to all these parastatals that are increasing here and there. Probably the 19,000 naira as tuition fees was, they were managing it to do a particular thing. But today, the federal government is saying we don't have money to probably subsidize for you, or to give, it's a situation we are in now that a lot need to be considered. So what do? Now, all these policies, all these changes, whatever will happen, you cannot take it out. Yes, we have a number of somersaulting policies, though. I do not agree with some of the policies. But even then, this does not, it doesn't have anything to do with the restraining order from court. If we want to do something, it's whatever you're doing is what doing well, you do it right. You can't say because all this is happening, then you are telling the court to vacate, the injunction. I think there's still room for negotiations. There's room for arbitration. There's still room, but the question is, has NLC, federal government, exhausted discussions, negotiations to warrant NLC to say we will disobey court order, irrespective of whatever the policies that federal government is bringing on within the time frame of the injunction or within the time frame of the substantive cases. So I think it is appropriate to follow things, due process, to do it right, irrespective of, okay, for instance, you said, okay, because somebody has been arrested, somebody has a case, and the court has said that, okay, this person should maybe be remanded or something, and you're saying, oh, because his son is sick, he cannot be remanded. So we will not let the court warder take him to correctional center. You can't do that. There's a court order. Either you appeal, or you go ahead and you obey the rulings or the judgment of the court.
All right. So if let me ask. So if NLC is not appealing, or if NLC is delaying in appealing, could it be that they don't trust the process? Could it be that they feel that the process would just delay and delay until time passes?
Already NLC has accused the industrial court of being biased and not listening to them, and federal government going to court with ex parte order to get an injunction that that the NLC is being biased because, well, that is their take. That is the way they see it. So now, talking about trust, that may be an issue for them. That, okay, if from us, you are giving us, you're giving an order restraining us from going on strike. You have not even considered what is happening. You have not even considered our own, side of the story, and you're stopping us from going on strike. Yes, trust issues will be coming, but then, do we have any other country? Do we have any other laws that if all of us, we even the NLC that is talking today, being governed by law. If there is no law, NLC will not exist. Law make provision for the availability of NLC and for all the things they are doing. How do I put it now? They've been put through by the law, this same law. So you cannot disobey this law. Because once you do that, it means that your existence should be put into questions.
All right, then.
As we speak, whether you trust or not, you see, we're handicapped. That is where we are. And that is the situation we find ourselves. And that happens to not just NLC, it happens everywhere. Let me even give you the simplest issue of a tenant. A landlord trying to evict his tenant, and he goes to court and to say this person has spent 2-3 years, he has not paid anything. The law does not allow the landlord to remove the roof of the house or to bungle or to use this other justice to bungle the tenant or throw whatever it is. The law empowers the landlord to go to court.
All right. Okay.
And get this person cannot do it on his own. This same thing applies. Even if you do not have trust in the court system, in the judiciary, you still have to obey the law. You still have to. It's unfortunate. You have to go by the rule of law, and that is my take on this.
All right, then. Thank you very much for your take, John. Now, doesn't this seem like I'm twisting NLC, John?
Well, for me, it's not as if this seem like it is untwisting, and that's the only way you can put it. Because the federal government know exactly what is happening, and they know exactly how to go about it. And that's why they had to outsmart the NLC by going through the back door to get the ex parte order, restraining them from going on the industrial action they must have planned across the nation. But I think going forward, the federal government also needs to understand that commitment to people is very, very sacrosanct, and that is the bane of governance. And they should also know that these people, they are who hold the economy in trust. And so when they shut down the system, there's no government that you want to govern over. There's no government. And so they should understand that the welfareism of the people should come first in every agenda. And I think that goes to all of our political leaders, political appointees, that they must understand that the Nigerian masses should not be a laughing stock, should not be people you take with levity. Rather, it's a labor force that should be taken with all manner of seriousness and looking into their welfare, looking into their environment at which they work, making sure that they have good working environment, welfare packages that matches the reality of the day. If a minimum wage is 30,000 naira, Moses, let me ask you, 30,000 naira, and you apply a bus from your house to your office, 1,000 naira per day, it means that you have almost 20,000 without feeding. That's just you alone. What about your wife and kids? What about a family of 4, a family of 3? How do they survive? And so the reality on ground shows that the minimum wage needs to be adjusted, so that it can match of the day. And if the government says there's no money, I think we should look at some of our frivolous spendings, some of our unnecessary things that we do in governance, and now we can drastically cut down the cost of governance so that we can plow funds into the normal areas that we ought to plow funds into, so that together we work in society we all can be proud of. And that's the way to go as a country.
All right, John, I'm going to stay with you for a little bit longer here. Yes, unfortunately, the illustration that you gave, well, I don't think government will consider me part of the poorest of the poor to receive the 8,000 naira. But even the poorest of the poor cannot exactly do anything with that amount of money. So that's why they've called for a review of it. Now, but while that is ongoing, the suffering has continued. Now, government saying it doesn't have money to fund education, like Barrister Olayinka rightly pointed out. And, you have also alluded to the fact that, yes, government saying it doesn't have money, it should cut down on some unnecessary expenses. But in the month of June, Nigeria, from the removal of subsidy, saved a certain amount of money. I think about 400 billion was saved. And government hasn't told us what it wants to do with that money. Shouldn't we be thinking about subsidizing education as against increasing tuition fees, making it more difficult for people to get educated?
I think we should look at where we are coming from as a country and as a people. And then if you check all of our political class, all of our senators, how many of them have their children here in Nigeria, studying in Nigerian universities? How many of them? So the first thing you should look at is if you have people in the upper and lower chamber who passes laws for the government and for our people, but their own children do not even use the general hospital. They don't use any of the public services. When they get sick, they don't go to general hospital, either in Abuja, in Sokoto, in Lagos, or in Ibadan. Do you understand? They don't attend the primary schools, early nursery and primary school. Neither do they attend the Orishigun High School. No. They don't go to state universities. They don't go to federal universities. So it means that will show you their own side of the story. And that is why the educational system of the country can never work. Mark my word, it can never work if we go by this way. Until we come to a system where public office holder also patronize the public institutions. If you are a state governor, you get sick, and you have built a world-class hospital in your state. When any member of the family gets sick, go to that world-class hospital you have built in that state, not fly abroad. Okay? And once we get to that point, we'll see that we'll put all the necessary attention into things that matter most. If the government says there's no money to fund education in Nigeria, so ask me, and let me ask them, where do the senators get money to pay for their children's school fees abroad? We have them in London, we have them in France, we have them in other parts of the world. So where do they get money to fund the education of their own children? You have them go for graduation ceremonies and they take pictures and put all on social media. So if there's no money to make our own educational system at home work, but there's money to send your own kids abroad. Then you see that there's no sincerity on the part of our political leaders and our political class. And that is a fact that can be checked by. But going forward, we have become a country where we don't prioritize things. And I think some of the things we should prioritize and subsidize is health. After health, education. If you have these two things, you have a healthy society, you have a well-educated society. And I can assure you, any society that is well-fed, well-educated, innovation and advancement will not be far from such country. Any country that does not prioritize education and make sure that its people become more impoverished, empower poverty through their policies and their schematic way of doing things, you see that what comes into that kind of country is that they build pockets of nuisance who creates pockets of violence in some areas and make sure that the country becomes ungovernable for everybody to live in. Even the so-called senators will have to run for their lives. Because if you get to a point where these people you have refused to get them trained, refused to educate them, they will grow up. Check 10 years from now, check 15 years from now. A 10-year-old boy who you think is on the street now, 15 years from now will be 25-year-old and will become a young adult. And not just a young adult, he will become a notorious young adult. And so I think we should understand this time and season that for us as a government, either at the federal government level, at the local government level, at the state level, we should prioritize education of our young people. Mark it, check it out. We have youthful population all across Africa. We are over 200 million people, and over 65% are young people. That's the future of the continent. That's the future of Nigeria. And so we must make sure that in terms of education, we have good quality and affordable education so that we can have good education for our people from the elementary to the junior high school to the tertiary institution. And then can we have a productive age and a productive society? And we can move from this issue of handing out cash to people, because that, in my own case, will never take us out of poverty. But rather, we should have hubs that can create jobs, that can engineer the economy. We have more people working. We have increase in production capacity. We have more money in the system. The government will also have more tax that they can generate from the system. And together, it's a win for the people. It's a win for the government. And you see that this gap between the rich and the poor can be bridged. And then there's no rich, there's no poor. Why? Because everybody is comfortable in their own way. If your son can get quality education in Nigeria, I don't think you'll be thinking of sending him to the UK. I don't think so. So the point is, even look, let's even ask our leaders, those who are in corridors of power today, look back in the 90s, in the 80s, in the 60s, in the 70s, when they were in their own schooling, okay? Look at the number of years they spent. We're looking at the profile of Sanusi the other day. And we see that from 1983 to 1984, he was done with his university education, he was in the law school, and by 1985, he was called to bar. Within that period, there was no strike, there was no gap. So if you see the seamless rate at which they move in terms of education, that happened in this same Nigeria. So can we go old days where you have people from US, UK come to Nigeria to study, where we have student exchange programs? Can we just see how the government can bring back quality, good and affordable education for every citizen in Nigeria, so that together we can have a society we can call our own? This is not the way to go. And so we can do it, because if you say to me that we don't have the money, but the world, or let me say the Western world, see the kind of influence, affluence, wealth our leaders, show, and you say there's no money, they laugh at us. That if you say you don't have money, but you have money to do all of these things, they just say that we are not serious, and they don't take us seriously. And that's why if you look at our FDI, it has not increased. If you look at our investors, they rather move to other areas, other countries where they feel they are safe. And that is the way it should be a big concern to the government of the day, that there's so much on their sleeves that they need to work on. Education, health, food are areas that we should work on as a matter of urgency.
All right, now let me come back to you now, Barrister Olayinka. Now, if government is saying NLC don't go on strike, and companies are saying, look, we know we can't pay our workers what is due onto them because of how the economy is, and you can take some days off work. You can maybe come to work 3 times a week and spend the rest off work. If companies start doing that, wouldn't that as well cripple the economy, which is something that a strike would do anyway?
Well, when we talk about a policy there by companies and saying crippling, and we all know today some of these are not even multinational, they are private companies. And that started from COVID. We saw what happened. And we work remotely, you know. In our own private, whatever, what we do, sometimes in our firm, we are pushing days. We say, Mr. A, you will come on Monday. Mr. B, Tuesday. Mr. C, Wednesday. So what we have done is everybody come 3 days in a week. Doesn't mean that you cannot work from home. If there are things to do from home, you can. Now, what has it done? Has it reduced our delivery? No, it has not. Nothing has affected our delivery. We are still doing our job and we are working. What it has only affected, it has reduced maybe some money going into the economy. But for instance, the one that will come on transportation, maybe a few days that they are not coming to work, they are not paying those money. And don't forget, even not paying the money, to those transporters, you need to of this person, that if this person comes every day and is paying the money to the transporters, it will affect him, because whatever the salary you are giving him is not enough to take care of himself. So he's not going to give. So look, the way it is, the economy generally is global. Is a global issue. It's everywhere. You heard what just happened in the US. You hear what, it's everywhere. It's happening. In the UK, you heard what the minister said recently. They're looking for money to put some bills and see how they're trying to generate the funds. It's everywhere. The time we have found ourselves, unfortunately, as a people, we Nigerians did not prepare for this. We live a largest life. And again, like my friend said, we have these same officials squandering money. We heard what Mr. Speaker, the appointment of his aides, doing what with such number of aides? I do not know. They're going to pay all these people. For what exactly? I do not know. That is the taxpayers' money. We heard about the 70 billion the senators and all that they have appreciated to themselves. So we, even as the people, the leaders, are not even doing well in our own space by saying, let us cut down governance. Let us cut down unnecessary, because if all of you, they expect everybody to do that. So if you want all of us to cut down on unnecessary expense, you too should take lead. You should take the lead. The cost. You should lead so if you, but if you do not care, you talk about some furniture, whatever because if you say somebody has come to serve and all the person is doing is to recoup, or whatever the person is doing is to see what he can pitch on, what he can lay his hand on to get, I don't think the person is there to serve. And that is why you really don't see the act of the mercies. You don't really see these leaders, considering this is in most ways, because to them, well, they don't care. As long as they are okay. The other time somebody raised the issue of, why can't we just cut down all this unnecessary? And they are saying, well, they have to do the job. They're not going to spend their own money to do the job. We are not saying spend your money to do the job, but don't forget that you came to us to vote you in, that you want to serve. So if you are coming to serve, then you know what should go with it. You know the sacrifices you are supposed to make, not coming to just on taxpayers' money. So what we are saying is, even if we have all these issues, I think the leaders, one, still also lead by example. That is one. Number two, all of us, we have to pay that price for now. Why? Because a lot has happened in the past. And is the fruit of whatever that has happened we are, seeing today. So not even the foundation, not even the root, not even the tree.
Well, it's funny. It's always funny that they say Nigerians will have to pay the price. Nigerians will have to endure. But if you look at it critically, the populace, Nigerians, were not the ones that asked government not to fix refineries. Nigerians, the populace, were not the ones that were stealing crude oil. That Nigeria has been losing crude oil. It's not the common man. It's still the echelon of power. Those in power. They are the ones that have been doing such things. But now the common man will have to tighten his belt, and the common man would have to suffer and wait for things to get really bad before they get better. So
yes, that will happen to a common man. I wanted to correct a notion, but you had already done that, because when you say it's not Nigerians that are doing that, we are all Nigerians. The people that are doing all those things are Nigerians. Just that they are just self-centered and selfish and greedy and wicked Nigerians. So, but they are not for majority. Now, if you say we, the people, we, the electorate, we, the people of Nigeria, make those people. We put them there.
Did we? Some will argue.
Yes, we collected peanuts. We collected peanuts to vote some of these people. We sold our future to some of these people.
All right.
We stole our birthright to some of these people. So now, if we see this result, it's as a result of who we are. Whatever you see up there, it is the replication you see in your own house.
Okay.
Because that is who we are, until we, as a people, decide, look, the NLC, all these people making noise, the next thing they will see, these are the same people. I'm not saying anybody should fight, but these are the same people. On the paper, you see something else. Behind door, you see different things. And they make fool of us. We don't know what they do behind the scene. So look, all this will happen. I'm not saying we Nigerians should suffer, but the reality, it has happened. We don't have any other country. This is our country. And the reality is, look, we have to fix it. And how do we fix it? It's not by anarchy. It's not by everybody going to eat the other family. It's not by anybody going to create chaos and carry machete. Nothing is going to happen. We don't want to burn the country, because there is nowhere to go. In fact, we will
of course,
the continent.
nobody.
Considering our number, if we do any irrational, considering our number, will mess up the continent. And
of course, yes. And there is no place like home. So why would you set fire to your home so you can run to your neighbor's compound? Of course. Well, that's let's wrap up this part of the show, and I'm going to keep you gentlemen for the second part as well. Just letting you know that. And I would love I'd love you to stay with me as we go on to the second part. Now, still to come on VOP this morning. After such a long wait, and expectations, the presidency finally sent its list of ministerial nominees to the Senate. Let's talk about that after this short break.